Welcome to the deep dive. So let's cut straight to it. How much of your development day feels like you're constantly switching gears?
Yeah, between writing the actual code and then, wrestling with the database.
Exactly. If you've ever thought, ugh, there has to be a better way, well, you're definitely not alone. That 2024 Stack Overflow Developer Survey,
Oh, yeah. What did that find?
it highlighted that 41% of us really struggle with that context switching.
Wow, that many.
And get this, the 2024 Stripe Developer Coefficient Report dropped a real bombshell. Developers can spend up to half their time just debugging code and databases.
Oof, 50%. That's a massive productivity drain, isn't it? It just highlights how badly we need, tighter integration.
Absolutely. When you're constantly jumping between tools, you just lose that flow.
You lose momentum, yeah. And it impacts everything down the line.
Which brings us nicely to our focus today, Microsoft's new public preview. It's the PostgreSQL extension for Visual Studio Code.
Right, the potential solution to this fragmentation.
Exactly. So our mission here is pretty simple. Let's explore how this extension tries to tackle that integration problem, what its key features actually are, and how it might, genuinely streamline your PostgreSQL development right inside VS Code.
Okay, so let's dig into that core problem again just for a sec. You're a developer, you're in VS Code, writing your app code.
Mm-hmm. In the zone.
Yeah, hopefully. But then you need to check something in the database, maybe run a quick query, look at a table structure.
Then you have to switch, open up pgadmin or dbeaver or whatever client you use.
Exactly. Different window, different interface. That back and forth, it's just inefficient. Breaks your concentration.
Okay, so this new PostgreSQL extension for VS Code, it's aiming to be the bridge, that unified environment.
That's the idea. Bringing those essential PostgreSQL management bits directly into the VS Code interface you already know.
For anyone listening who's juggled those separate windows while trying to code, I mean, this could genuinely be a game changer.
That's the hope, definitely. Consolidate tasks, reduce that mental load, keep you focused, and hopefully make you more productive.
All right, so let's get into the specifics. What are some of the key features here? First up, they mention schema visualization.
Oh, yeah, this sounds pretty neat. Understanding your database structure at a glance.
It sounds like you can just right-click a database in the Object Explorer and choose Visualize Schema.
And boom, you get a visual map. It's not just about seeing tables and columns laid out, though.
Yeah. What else?
Well, think about onboarding someone new to the project, or even just trying to refactor a really complex schema yourself. A visual often makes relationships and maybe potential problems much clearer than just reading SQL.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Like spotting dependencies you didn't realize were there. Their figure one gives a decent idea of how that looks, apparently.
Exactly. It fosters that shared understanding.
Okay, next big one. And this sounds, well, pretty significant. The database-aware GitHub Copilot.
Right, so we know Copilot for code generation, but this is weaving that AI assistance into your database workflow.
Because it understands your specific PostgreSQL schema.
Precisely. That's the key part. It's not generic SQL help. It has context. This could massively lower the barrier for folks newer to Postgres.
And for experienced devs.
Still a big productivity boost, I'd imagine. Less boilerplate, faster querying.
And interacting with the database sounds like it gets more conversational, using the @PGSQL command with natural language.
Yeah, you can apparently just describe what you want, ask it to query something, help optimize a schema, run SQL operations, all using plain English.
That could really speed things up. No more fiddling with exact syntax sometimes.
Imagine just saying, like, show me all users who signed up last week, and it drafts the SQL. But it's more than just drafting.
Oh, what else?
The context menu and the query editor. They show options like rewrite query, explain query, analyze query performance. Figures 2 and 3 illustrate this.
Ah, okay. So it's not just writing it, it's helping you write it better.
Exactly. Real-time, almost expert-level guidance on performance. Maybe even security implications of how you've written it.
Analyze query performance.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback would you expect from that? Like the query plan?
Yeah. Typically things like the execution plan, pointing out potential bottlenecks, maybe suggesting indexes you're missing, or alternative ways to structure the query for better speed.
Like having a mini DBA sitting next to you.
Kind of. That's the potential there. Real-time performance advice.
That is a step up. Now, what about this GitHub Copilot chat agent mode? Sounds like it goes beyond simple Q&A.
It does. It's designed for more complex, sort of multi-stage tasks. It remembers the conversation context.
And it can even use your workspace context, like look at your open files. With permission, obviously.
Yes, exactly. With your explicit permission, it's not just answering one-off questions. It can help orchestrate a sequence of actions.
Okay, let's use their example. Creating a new database and enabling the PostGIS extension. That's the one for geographic data, right?
That's the one, yeah. Add support for spatial data types and functions in Postgres.
So how would the agent handle that if I just asked it in natural language?
Well, according to their description in Figure 4, you'd give the at PGSQL agent the prompt, something like, create a new database called geospatial and enable PostGIS.
Okay.
The agent would then first probably list your available server connections so you can confirm which one. Then it connects. Then it drafts the SQL script needed the create database command, the create extension PostVGIS command.
And crucially.
Crucially, it asks for your permission before running that script. It shows you the SQL it plans to execute.
That's vital. You absolutely need that confirmation step before it starts changing your database.
Absolutely. It's AI assistance, but you're still firmly in control. But this ability to handle multi-step things from a simple prompt, that could really simplify setup and admin tasks.
Definitely. Okay, another common, let's say, friction point, database connections. Managing all those details.
Yeah, can be a pain. This extension seems focused on simplifying that quite a bit.
For both local and cloud databases.
Yep. Managing multiple connection profiles, parsing connection strings, which can sometimes be a bit fiddly, let's be honest.
Tell me about it.
And for Azure users, specifically Azure Database for PostgreSQL, there's direct browsing and filtering built right in. Figure 5 shows that.
Oh, nice. So you don't have to jump to the Azure portal to find connection details or see your instances.
Seems like it aims to avoid that jump, keep you in the editor. And it also mentions simplifying connections to local databases running in Docker containers, which is a common setup too. Figure 6 touches on that.
That Azure browsing sounds like a real time saver if you're in that ecosystem.
For sure. Less hunting around for connection strings and host names.
Now, something else related to connections. Passwordless authentication with Entra ID. What's Entra ID again, for those unfamiliar?
Entra ID is basically Microsoft's cloud identity service. Think Azure Active Directory is the new name.
Got it. So integrating with that for database logins, what are the wins there?
Several big ones, really. First, streamlined login. You use your main organizational credentials. No separate database passwords to manage.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Then, automatic token refresh. So less interruption from expired credentials. Security is a big one. You're leveraging Entra ID's security features.
Makes sense.
Plus, it's just more efficient time-wise, fits better with enterprise security policies where Entra ID is often standard already.
So leveraging existing identity stuff for smoother, more secure database access. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
All right, moving on through the features. The Database Explorer. Every database tool needs a good way to browse objects.
Absolutely essential, yeah. This one gives you that structured tree-like view you'd expect. Schemas, tables, functions, views, all that stuff. Figure 7 shows the typical layout.
And it's not just read-only. You can manage objects too.
That's right. Creating, modifying, deleting objects directly from VS Code. Again, reducing the need to flip over to a dedicated admin tool for those common tasks.
Keeps you in the flow. And for reusing work, query history. Sounds simple but useful.
Very useful. It seems like it keeps a history of the queries you've run in your current session, right there below the Object Explorer. Figure 8 shows that panel.
So you can just grab a query you ran a few minutes ago and run it again, or tweak it.
Exactly. Saves rewriting or digging through old files. Simple but effective.
And finally, the core editing experience itself. Context-aware IntelliSense in query editing.
Yeah, bringing those smart code editor features we rely on into the SQL editor.
Like auto-completion.
Yep. Intelligent auto-completion for SQL keywords, but also for your specific table names, column names, functions, syntax highlighting, of course, auto-formatting to keep things readable.
And query history tracking, too, it mentions. Figure 9 shows some of this.
Right, all contributing to making the actual process of writing and refining SQL quicker and less error-prone within VS Code.
Okay, so if you pull all these pieces together, the visualization, the Copilot smarts, the easier connections, the object management, the IntelliSense, what really makes this stand out compared to, say, just using pgadmin or another existing tool?
Well, I think the key differentiator is that deep integration within VS Code combined with the intelligence layer from Copilot.
So it's the combination.
Yeah. You get the baseline productivity stuff like IntelliSense and formatting, sure. But then you layer on that database-aware Copilot chat agent that understands your schema and your workspace context for those complex tasks.
Right.
Add the smoother onboarding with the connection manager, the security benefits of Entra ID, the easier Azure browsing. It's about having this really comprehensive tool set for PostgreSQL development and management, all living inside the editor where you're already spending most of your time.
Especially compelling if you're already deep in the VS Code and maybe the Azure ecosystems.
Definitely seems targeted there, but useful more broadly too, I'd imagine.
Okay, so if listeners are thinking, all right, I want to try this, what's the process? Getting started?
Seems pretty standard for a VS Code extension. You open the extensions, view that little square icon on the side, or Ctrl plus Shift plus
The
X.
Samby Way plus Shift plus X on a Mac, yeah.
Right. Then you just search the marketplace for PostgreSQL. You'll want to look for the preview one with the blue elephant icon. Figure 10 in their post shows it.
And the ID, just to be sure.
The specific ID is ms-osdata.vscode-pgsql. Find that, click install. Should be straightforward.
Okay. And to get the Copilot chat features working, the @pgsql command, any prerequisites?
Yeah, a couple things there. You need the main GitHub Copilot extension installed first.
Makes sense.
And you also need the GitHub Copilot chat extension installed, both of those. And then you need to be logged into your GitHub account within VS Code.
Got it. Copilot chat, logged into GitHub. Then @pgsql should work in the chat window.
That's the process, yes. Then you can start talking to your database.
And finally, since it's a public preview, feedback is key, right?
Absolutely. They'll be looking for feedback to iron out bugs and, refine the features.
How should people provide that?
The best way is usually through the built-in VS Code feedback tools. There should be ways to report issues or make suggestions directly related to the extension from within the editor. That input is really valuable at this stage.
Good to know. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. It definitely sounds like this PostgreSQL extension for VS Code has some serious potential. Potential to, genuinely improve the day-to-day for developers working with Postgres. Maybe claw back some of that time lost to context switching we mentioned right at the start.
It certainly seems aimed squarely at that problem. And, maybe a final thought to leave listeners with.
Go for it.
Just consider how this kind of thing, AI assistance, getting deeply integrated into our tools. Understanding not just our code, but our data structures too, how that might fundamentally change how we build things in the future.
Yeah, how we interact with databases, how we design applications.
Exactly. It's worth exploring this extension, not just for the immediate productivity gains, but also to think about those bigger shifts happening in development tooling.
The provocative thought indeed. Definitely encourages giving it a try and seeing how it feels.